going to be this guy. Joel Christian Gill is here. So is this a children's book you're doing with Don Lemon? Because
No,
that's specialty. You're an illustrator. You do art like you did Stamped with Ibram Kendi.
yeah.
What are you doing with Don Lemon that requires your expertise?
I'm doing a graphic novel. So Don is doing a middle grade graphic novel about his life growing up as a gay kid in the South in the 70s.
Okay.
And
Okay. All
so,
right.
and Don has issues in his life that I think are really important to deal with. Like we're talking about men today. Like, I wrote in my book, Fights, my memoir, about how I survived sexual assault, how I survived racism and trauma and poverty. And I just don't think enough Black men talk about this openly. And I think it's just really important for people to know this kind of things. And so that's legitimately what drew me. It wasn't Don. It was like the fact that he's talking about these things, because I think those things are important for us to talk about, because I think we get stigmatized into these situations where you think that something happens to you and it makes you, whether you're homophobic, it feeds into that toxic masculinity, right? Like people have
Right.
this understanding that you say toxic masculinity, that you're saying all masculinity is toxic. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the masculinity that says the only emotions you can have are anger and rage. You know what I mean? Like those things. Like you can't have, like, you need to be broader in your understanding. And I want to I want to help. I don't believe that you can change policy I don't believe you can change the world through policy, through, you know,
Can't
politics.
legislate it. Can't
Can't
legislate it.
legislate. You can
Yeah.
only, I think you change the world through pop culture and like you putting things into the zeitgeist. And they're perfect examples of this, right? During the civil rights during the civil rights era, we had all these people afraid of Black people taking over the world. So we get a movie called Planet of the Apes. You got right after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, you got all of these Japan started making these movies about in the world, right? And then after the 2016 election, we had all the horror movies came out that about holding still and being quiet, right? If you hold still, you
Mm.
be quiet, everything's going to be okay. So and even like when you got the Dobbs decision, like what was on television, Ellen was on television, and we had Will and Grace. Like people have been watching gay people like move through the world in a normal way. Or when we had all those disaster movies, the comet movies, all the presidents were Black. 2008, we get a Black president. I don't believe those things are coincidence. So I believe that the way we do this is to put that stuff in the zeitgeist. And this is the thing. You know that you can tell when that stuff is working, because what are they doing to those books? What are they doing right now?
Banning them. They're
That's how you know
banning
it
them,
works.
Joel.
They're
They
banning
are.
those books because they don't want us to see other people. They don't want us to build empathy. And they know that books like March, books like Stamped, books like Genderqueer by my homie Maya Kobabe, like they know that those books actually do those kind of things, and they don't want that. They want women to stay in the kitchen, and they want Black people to stay subservient, and they want queer people to be quiet. They don't want us out in the world, right? So, and I think that's the thing that, I believe about building pop culture, building building policy through pop culture, because when people can see it, you recognize how it works, right? It's like those racists that grew up always racist in a southern town and they never knew anybody Black, and then their daughter happens to marry a Black man and they get mixed grandbabies, and they're just like, I'm no longer racist, right? Because I have proximity to these people and they're my people now, right? And I think that's what you got to do. You got to do that
Yeah.
for people.
No, I agree. And while I do not value Don Lemon as a journalist, I think that this project is something like we have to be able to not toss out the baby with the bathwater. But to me, if it saves a child or it saves a person and they get to see themselves, I will support it. But I
Yeah.
will not ever support him being a journalist, and I stand by that. But that's we can have that discussion or argument
We can, we can
or not
all,
at
we can
all.
all, yeah, we can all, yeah, no, it's good. I love Don. I think he's a great dude. I think he got into the electric asshole's ass there when he interviewed him on Twitter a little bit. And although I did tell him, I'm like, I don't know why you decided to do that. I said, you knew he was a
Yeah,
snitch.
that all of it. It's I feel like we're in an age where no longer can people chase a check. And when I say chase a check, do things that compromise not just their integrity, but the rest of ours as well
Yeah,
for money and
yeah,
fame and success. And we not talk about it. So we're going to talk about, I don't care whether you are on ESPN and I've known you for a while, or you are Don Lemon, who seems like a very nice man, however, like at some point, because the decisions people make affect us. So it's not in
No,
a
you're right.
vacuum. You're not just making a you decision. At that point, we are all now grafted into the view of black people or what have you based on how you open your mouth and talk.
You know what's funny
So
is that when all this stuff with Candace Owens came out, I saw something and I was like, so I texted Don. I'm like, listen, Don, you should interview Candace Owens. And he sent me a video about black journalists and black entertainers not giving her space. He was like, we should not give her air.
what?
Right?
Let
Yeah.
me
And I'm
find
like,
out.
all right. Yeah. And I was like, and so what was funny about that is I was like, I think with Candace Owens, right? I think she's got a baby face, right? And like they get to people see her in real life, and she's probably charming before she gets on camera. You know what I mean? And they get all that stuff. I said, Don, you will be immune to that. She can't charm you like that, right? You can do that. And he was like, I'm not giving somebody like that space. He's like, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, okay, all right, I respect that. But I was laughing about it because I thought it would be funny, right? Because I'm a troll like that. You see my
Yeah,
Instagram, I'm a
you
troll
are.
like
You are. I like it. As a recovering troll, I appreciate it from afar.
I always tell people I'm
It,
not. What it is? I got a good memory and I'm petty.
yeah. Well, my memory sucks. So, but my petty is I don't know. Understand? My petty outdistances my memory.
You be
So
you be Petty
it's
LaBelle. I'll be Petty Wop. There we go.
okay. We here for it. I love it. I love it. 866-801-8255. Joel Christian Gill is here. He's the illustrator of Stamp from the Beginning, a graphic history of racist ideas in America.